And welcome back to another edition of the Big Nick Energy Podcast. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment everywhere you get your podcasts, including our YouTube. We are almost at 1,000, so that is super duper exciting. I have a super special guest today. He's been doing Knicks content longer than I have even. He works for the Strickland, Shwin, aka Shwinny Poo, who is the staff writer for the Strickland and podcast host for Pod Strickland. Very well named. Shwin, how you doing today, man?
I'm doing well, man. Can't complain. Enjoying the dog days of summer, so going good.
It's hard to actually pull content out usually. Thankfully, FIBA starts tomorrow, so I feel like that makes it a little bit easier. But before we get to FIBA, two things. One, to plug your guys' stuff. Subscribe to everywhere you can find the Strickland podcast. Check out the written content at thestrick.land. And they also have a Patreon. So their Patreon, you can pay for as little as $3 a month or as large as $100 a month package. I'm pretty sure $100 a month gets you a cleaning service as well. So that's
Yeah,
super duper exciting.
we'll do anything you want.
Yeah, exactly. $100 a month, man. You got to make it worthwhile, right? I'm pretty sure you actually can be a guest on their podcast one time a month if you do it, if I read that correctly,
That
but
is
no,
correct.
no cleaning service. Shwin, your most recent podcast you did, I listened to, you had an NYU professor slash intellectual property lawyer. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Michael Kasdan. You can follow. I think his Twitter ad is literally Michael Kasdan. He's been all over now. He did a pod. He did like 3 pods that I saw come up today, talking about this. So I guess we beat everybody to the rush. But yeah, he was great. He was a great guest.
Awesome. I'm not, so we didn't ask for him because I figured by the time I actually did that with this move and everything, he was going to be everywhere.
Mhm.
And of all the things I went to school for or have worked in life, none of them involved being a lawyer. So just to get what you got out of the meeting out of the way, for anyone that doesn't know, the Knicks are suing the Raptors for intellectual property reasons because a former employee of theirs, who is now an employee of the Raptors as of a few weeks ago, this all happened in the past 45 to 90 days. Can you explain what is actually happening, Schwinn, with that, and then what you got out of the IP lawyer you talked to?
Yeah, I mean, I can try my best as somebody
That's all
who
I
is
can ask for,
also,
right?
yeah, who is also not a lawyer. Uh, More or less, the Knicks are suing the Raptors. They had a video development assistant type dude who handled, data collection, kind of all that stuff. Um, he was hired by the Raptors. He obviously left the Knicks. Along the way, he decided to very unintelligently email stuff directly from his Knicks work account to his Gmail, and was not ambiguous with some of the titles. Like one of them is literally called Synergy Login. I think one of the others was, they passed on game preparation, which involved diagramming of opponent plays and all types of stuff. One of them was the final game of the season against the Pacers, game 82. That was one of the forwards. And basically, the Knicks obviously caught wind of it because it's just not very hard to track that.
When you're
And
emailing your personal from your work does know.
yeah, and yeah, I guess they informed the league and Masai Ujiri, or not Masai Ujiri. I don't want to misspeak. They informed the team. They informed the Toronto Raptors. I'm not sure who on the Toronto Raptors side, that they were going to, or that they informed them last week that they had discovered this, whatever had happened, but they did not tell them they'd be filing a lawsuit. And then they filed a lawsuit at some point Monday. It might have been Monday afternoon. Um, and now we are here, and they are suing the Toronto Raptors effectively for uh, stealing proprietary information, proprietary data, and we will see how it ends up. But um, you know, do I don't know the merits of the case. Nobody, and to be fair, like, and this was something Michael brought up on the pod with us, but like nobody can actually say anything for sure right now.
This is
Does it
all
seem?
alleged still. It just started.
Yeah, these are all allegations, and does it seem on the surface that like the Knicks have some evidence of this guy doing stuff? Yeah, absolutely. I think there's definitely evidence of that, and um, is it fair for other people to be like, well, come on, it's not that big a deal. It's a synergy login and he's just taking plays and blah, blah, blah. I think that's like, maybe let's just say that let's say that is all he took. I have a very hard time believing that would be like the consensus reaction if the roles were reversed here. So I kind of think maybe it's not that big of a deal. But if I'm the Knicks and I go to the league on Friday and I go to the Raptors on Friday and let them know, like, hey, we got this guy. I forgot his name. I don't want to even say his name if I mess it up, but
It's Ike Azatam.
okay, Ike Aztem. This guy left our organization. He got hired by you guys, and we have him emailing a bunch of stuff. And the thing is, it's not just him emailing it to himself, right? It's like I think there's like direct emails where he's sending it to the new head coach of the Raptors. The head coach of the Raptors is named specifically in the lawsuit as a defendant, as is one of their other. I think it's like a G League video guy or something like that, whatever it was. And like if I'm them and I'm telling you this, it almost feels like the league was kind of like, and kind of the reaction that you're getting from a lot of people who maybe cover the league is it's almost like, come on, like it's not that big of a deal. And I don't know, maybe if you're the Knicks and you think, hey, like we think this is a big deal and you don't seem to be taking it seriously. And the Raptors are telling us they're going to do an internal investigation. And I'm sure that we all know what an internal investigation means is that you're not going to actually do anything. It's like, if this is the reaction we're going to get, then we're going to be aggressive about making this a big deal because we think it is a big deal. Are they right? Are they wrong to do it? I don't know. You could say they're petty. I can't tell you that without looking at anything. And like, I think there's just a rush to. The only thing I'm comfortable saying is that like something was taken from the Knicks because the evidence on the surface that like I don't really think anybody is doubting seems to agree with that. What does that all mean? What are the specifics of what was taken? Is that proprietary? Is it actually that big of a deal? None of us can know that. And I think that's just really where it's at. So we'll see. I don't want to say it's a huge deal, but I also think like, look, man, I just
we just don't know yet. We literally just don't know.
We don't know, and I also just think like it's one thing to just be if it's not that big of a deal, then why send yourself all the information? Like if you're just like it's like, oh, people are like, oh, he's just taking stuff from their synergy accounts. It can't be that big a deal. Okay, well then how come every team in the NBA doesn't just share one big synergy account? Like
right.
We know why, because there is shit you can glean from like, yeah, if like I think I brought this up when we did it, but like if you go onto my, if you follow me or whatever during the season, you'll see like I randomly will post like, oh, I found these 5 plays interesting. If you probably consistently just tracked what I posted, you'd probably find some consistency of like, oh, maybe this he seems to value these things. He seems to value that thing. Like you can discover that. And again, every organization is obviously run to this point. We don't know. Maybe we'll get some chat GPT GM soon, but to this point are run by actual human beings. Human beings have biases. They have subjective viewpoints. And no matter how objective data is, we all know that data can be used to present and inform subjective opinions.
Yep.
It's ridiculous to suggest that there's nothing to be gained from looking into a team synergy. I'm not saying what you learn is that meaningful, but it's crazy to me to think like, no, come on, it's just video clips. Like, yeah, I mean, you can learn a lot from that probably.
One thing you mentioned before was that the Raptors head coach, the new one, Darko Rajakovic, who was actually mentioned as a defendant within the filing. It was like 10 John Does, Rajakovic, the Lewis, whatever his name is, their video guy that they had, and then obviously Ike. It's really interesting because, like you said, he is a brand new head coach, but he's worked in the NBA for like a decade now. And it's like, if you were applying to jobs, I'm assuming this wasn't the first job you applied to. One thing that I feel like we could all, for the most part, agree with, like, for whatever you think about Tom Thibodeau, he's a good game planner. I mean, for at least defense, for at least half the game, he is a good game planner. And I think that's widely respected amongst the whole league. So to access plays or any sort of intel 3,000 times, over 3,000 times allegedly, within a 3-week time frame means that they clearly valued something, at least one or two things, a whole lot, in my honest opinion, for what they did in such a short amount of time. And the one thing I know you said, but I just want to beat a dead horse. If you ever have a job in any corporate world and you send any email outside of the corporate world, exactly. Well, you want to use a thumb drive. A lot of the ones, even those can be tracked. They can at least track that you put it on a thumb drive. They can't track the thumb drive once you take it away, obviously.
Yeah, I lost it. Sorry, pal.
Right. Yeah, exactly. If I drove over it, I don't know, man. But like, do not email yourself anything discriminatory in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. And for this guy to be a video editor, which means his job is to work on computers within NBA game planning, and just not understand that, did he just miss every cybersecurity and every HR meeting they ever had? Like, it's absolutely dumbfounding that this dude did this, took a raise from another team within the same division, no less, and thought nothing's going to come out of this. I'm not the only one.
Yeah. And I think the thing that I thought was kind of maybe this, look, there's been a lot of people, I know Seth Partnow was one, and others have said, like, this is an industry norm. This is not, come on, like, this is not that crazy of a thing.
How do we know how far is too far? That's the thing.
And it's like, look, let's go with that. Let's say that's a fact. That's an industry norm, not that big of a deal. Okay, fine. It's an industry norm, not that big of a deal. Okay, well then, is it normal to just send an email with the title Synergy Login? Like, to me, it's like some of it is so brazen that it's like almost insulting. It's like, come on, like, you're not even trying here. You're not like, we're sending you out in good graces, and you're like blatantly shoving this in our face that, like, hey, I'm taking all your shit with me. I'm gonna let these guys know. And I don't know. I don't know what to make of that. I can't say, like, for sure one way or the other that the guy was that is part of it. But like, look, I think if there's one thing we know about James Dolan is that James Dolan's a petty guy. And you might not want to show a petty person like exactly your entire game plan. And like, look, it's a division rival. Information for these teams is at a premium. And let's just be quite honest. Like, this is not the NBA of 1997 where every front office is just like 20x players in different roles. Like, you are hiring, like, people are talking about, like, come on, this is not, it's corporate, it's not corporate espionage. Like, look, maybe it's not. I'm not saying it is. Obviously, there's a difference between like what is happening here versus like,
this isn't Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah, and basketball is different than a sport like baseball where there's so much. I mean, there's tons of data in basketball, but baseball is a totally different level.
Yeah.
So I understand there's a difference there, but like, look at the makeups of NBA front offices and the support staffs, data staffs, analytic staffs, whatever. Like, you're hiring almost at a point now where, like, a lot of these dudes, you look at their resume, like where they have degrees from and stuff, you're like, why are you in the NBA and not working at like some Wall Street hedge fund? Well, guess what? When you hire guys like that, like, you're going to operate more and more like those industries and those kind of companies. So to me, like, maybe this is an industry norm, but industry norms can change over time. And I would bet like dollars to donuts that even if you go back as far as 2013, when like we were kind of, as a whole, like, people are really starting to understand now, okay, like, 3-pointers are good, shots at the rim are good, mid-range shots are bad. Like, even from there until now, like, I guarantee you the makeup of front offices has changed drastically since then. And I just think, like, none of this seems as out. Like, if you took out the Knicks and you put in, I don't know,
the Spurs,
put in the Golden State Warriors, or the Spurs. Yeah. So like I don't think, maybe people would still be like, it's not that big of a deal, but I highly doubt it would be like, oh, what are they going to dig for the Knicks? Oh, that's so like, look, come on, like, we don't need to pretend like, Bill Belichick he's been coaching in the Patriots for like 20 years. Do you think that guy do you think he cares how bad his opponent is? If he can get any edge on them, he's going to take it. That's why he's as good as he's been. And we know this, like,
why he's been caught multiple times cheating. Yeah. He literally got caught when he tried.
I mean, I'm not even a Jets fan. I don't know if you guys are Jets fans, but like, I
I
think
am Vince an
like
Eagles fan, but I am.
yeah, but like multiple times, I'm pretty sure he's done this thing, right? Where he'll like they'll be playing a Jets in a game week, they'll pick somebody up off of waivers who the Jets waived, so that they can basically get the playbook, and then they waive him at the end of the week, and it's
Yep.
like okay, but the Jets were like 3-7 at the time. Like, do you think he cares? He doesn't care. He's trying to get every edge he can. So even if the Raptors and the rest of the league thinks the Knicks are idiots, they're not going to like. Of course, you take every opportunity you can to better your own hand, better your chances. Like Watergate happened.
Yeah.
Nixon was going to win that election. It didn't matter, but he did it, right? So, it is what it is. Like I know that the Knicks will get clowned for a lot of things, and to be fair, like if I was not a Knicks fan, this would probably be kind of funny, especially when there's nothing else going on in the NBA right now.
If I was to, I just looked up his LinkedIn. If I was to have you guess where you think Ike Azatam is from, or at least has his LinkedIn location as, what do you think it is?
Like, is it like Toronto, Ontario, Mississauga, or something like that?
It is Boston, Massachusetts.
Yeah, even worse. The
And
worst.
I've yet to trust a single person from Boston as a New York fan.
Yeah, it's the worst. This
Oh my
guy's
God.
clearly a mole.
Yeah, dude, it's just a 5-year plant. And he was probably supposed to be hired by the Celtics, and then Toronto just offered him more money within the division.
Yeah.
Oh my God. To get off of lawyer stuff, because at the end of the day, you and I are not lawyers, and this is only so entertaining for so long. FIBA starts in approximately 10 hours because it starts in the Philippines at 4:30 in the morning, which is way too early. To start with the USA, they're in Group C. They're playing in Manila, so they're only in the Philippines the whole time because the whole FIBA tournament is in the Philippines, Indonesia, and Japan. Indonesia and Japan are only having group play. Once you get to the medal round, you're only in the Philippines anyway. So USA shouldn't have to leave the Philippines throughout the whole duration. They are minus 5,000 favorites to win their group, which, just so people know that don't gamble, that means they have a 98% probability of winning the group with New Zealand, Greece, and Jordan. And if Jordan wins a single game, that probably would also be a minus 5,000 upset. USA's first game is against New Zealand Saturday at 8:40. Their second game is Greece Monday at 8:40. That's the 28th. And the last game is against Jordan, which thankfully the worst game of the three is the only one they play before 5 in the morning. That is a 4:40 a.m. Eastern tip-off. Shwin, I know we both, because of the Strickland and BK, we both have been following both USA and Canada more so than any other team. For America first, what are you expecting to get the takeaways, at least for the next week, between these three games against inferior opponents to a severely inferior opponent?
Um.
And more specifically, Brunson and Hart, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty excited to watch them. Like it's kind of weird for me with FIBA where I don't I don't know like exactly what to take away from it at any time. Because it's like you have these games where you're like I'm very happy RJ's playing well, right? But then you'll have a game where like you're watching them, right? Canada's playing Germany, and you're like, well, SGA looks like he's drunk, and Dennis Schroeder looks like he's Steph Curry. Like
Yeah.
it's very, very weird watching these games. And that's why I try to like just be happy with when our guys play well. And then when they don't play well, I'm like, well, it's FIBA. Who cares? But I would say like I think Brunson's gonna be fine. I know that there was a lot of like, oh my god, Halliburton has to start after the last game, and look, I'm not gonna lie, like I've been following it, but I would be, and I honestly I want to give a lot of these people with like super strong FIBA takes. I want to give some of them truth serum and be like, be real. How close are you watching the games? How many of these games are you even watching? I would love to know. Like Bill Simmons had a huge, he did a huge pod. He came off his hibernation, and he's like dropping huge takes. It's like, Bill, there's no way you've watched. The only game you watched was the last game. It's the only game
Yeah.
you've watched.
There's no way you think Austin Reeves is one of the 5 best players in this team, dude. There's no shot. You don't have him better than Brandon Ingram. Shut the F
Yeah.
up.
So like I just I try to be aware with that, but like I do expect, I think Hart, I'm not expecting much from Hart. I think Hart is gonna do Josh Hart things. He'll be hanging out, he'll get rebounds, he'll crash the glass, he'll do all of those very fun Josh Hart things, play hard defense, whatever. I don't even think he's gonna play that much. He might play like whatever. The games are 40 minutes, right? So maybe like
Yeah, I'd say like
12.
12 minutes a game. Yeah.
Yeah, 12, 13 minutes a game. That's fine. I don't expect much from him. And actually, I kind of think like one of the reasons he is there is that they know that he will be happy with whatever his role is. So I don't, I'm fine with that. And it doesn't affect anything for me. Brunson, look, he's going to be the starting point guard. I doubt that Kerr is going to change the lineup after one bad game against Germany.
Yeah, no
but
shot.
like, yeah, I just don't see that. But like, you would like to see him just continue to be the type of guy that we've seen, after the All-Star break last year into the postseason. You just, high efficiency, make smart decisions with the ball, don't turn it over. I do think, one fair maybe criticism of him is he could do a little bit more to maybe try to be a distributor. We know, and obviously we benefited from this as a team, he's more geared as a scorer, even though he's a point guard. But I do think he could like help a lot of guys out maybe in that starting lineup if he would just dial back the scoring a little bit to distribute a little bit more. But like,
I'm gonna ask you a question real quick and then press my camera to have it restart. If are you a gambler by chance?
I do gamble.
Okay, so would Jalen Brunson plus 700 MVP odds interest you, and why?
Yeah, no, that would interest me a lot. Because I think in general you want to bet on the scores. Scores win MVPs, and if you just look at who is the best scorer on this team, who are the best scorers on this team, if you think the US is going to win, Edwards, probably the juice on Edwards is probably terrible. I haven't even looked at it.
It's plus 280. I have the odds right now, so I'll just tell you the top
Yeah.
six real quick. Anthony Edwards is the favorite for the whole tournament, plus 280. Brunson is second in the whole tournament, plus 700. SGA is plus 1,000. Brendan Ingram plus 1,200. Mikal Bridges plus 1,300. Tyrese plus 1,600, and Giddey is plus 1,600. Everyone else is 2,000 or more. Plus 2,000. I think it's because they don't expect Slovenia to get far.
Didn't Slovenia make the semifinals of the Eurobasket last summer or 2 summers ago, whatever the hell it is that they played?
I think so, but the thing is,
Yeah.
it doesn't include USA, Canada, or Australia. And I think based on where their group is, I'm pretty sure they have to play Australia and or Spain, Germany in the next round. And I think these odds just seem like they don't expect them to go as far as possible.
Right. This is not like people always you have to remember, like, this is not a ranking of who are the best players. It's who is most likely to win the MVP. And that's going to be one of the
You have to make it at least to the finals round. You can lose the finals, but you have to at least make it there.
Right. So I would still, maybe put a little $5 on Luka. But like I think with that, like, it's either going to be Ant or it's going to be Brunson. Like, I don't see anybody else scoring enough to do it. Like, Halliburton's really good. He's not going to score like that, especially not on this team. Brandon Ingram being plus 1,200 to me is insane. Given, like, I just don't think he's going to get the touches to do that. Unless, the only way you would take the Ingram odds is if you think Halliburton might, like if Kerr would actually swap Brunson and Halliburton, because Halliburton would be more of a distributor and probably give Ingram more touches, which, whatever. But like, I think it's either Ant or it's Brunson. Brunson plus 700 seems pretty good to me, because I just feel like these games, like, FIBA gets to be more of a half court game. I love Anthony Edwards. I think he's awesome. I think people need to like calm down every time he has a big game and start anointing him like Michael Jordan. Like, he's awesome. He's really, really good. He's probably going to be a top 5, top 10 player fairly soon if he's not there by the end of next season. But like having a 34-point game in what quite literally is a meaningless exhibition in terms of stakes against Germany is not the same thing as like, okay, we're playing fucking Spain in a semifinal in a 6-point game with like 5 minutes left. And even at the end of that Germany game, which is, by the way, this is like the most analysis.
I meant to send that to Ben. Keep going.
The most analysis you're going to get from me is because I have not been watching these games closely, but I did happen to watch the end of this game fairly closely. But what I thought was interesting is even after they made this run, I think they're up like 4, 5, 6, something like that. They had this string of like 3 possessions. And at this point, he had taken Halliburton even off the floor. It was basically Anthony Edwards, 3 other wings, and a center.
Yep.
And like that, the offense totally stalled out. Edwards was taking these horrible shots, like really settling. You don't blame him. I mean, it's just tough. And like those are the moments where I'm like, uh, I mean, he didn't need Brunson in that game, so he just went back to Halliburton and they pretty much closed it out at that point. But like, I think when you play some of these better teams, teams that are more equipped defensively, and forget equipped defensively, but teams that just have more firepower offensively than Germany does,
Yeah.
I think you're going to need Brunson in those moments because we saw it in the playoffs. Like he is a tough shot maker. He can score in the half court. He can slow it down. He is capable of making it happen in those tight game situations, pressure situations, and yeah, like I could see a scenario even if Edwards ends up winning the MVP. Like I could see a scenario where he wins the MVP, but a lot of times down the stretch of the games they're going to Brunson for buckets. I could see that
100%.
for sure.
Just to mention the other Knicks that are actually in this, RJ Barrett is plus 4,500, which honestly is the second best Canada player. If you do think they're going to get far, plus 4,500 is great juice. And Evan Fournier, who is in fact generally like a top 5 player in this tournament style, because whether it's because the 3-point line is closer, he gets to play with Rudy Gobert, and then all of his defensive fallacies go away. He is the favorite for France at plus 2,300, which are both really interesting to me. RJ, because if SGA gets hurt and then they made the finals, RJ is like a lock almost at that point. And then that's also what I was going to say about with Brandon Ingram plus 1,200 would be if Anthony Edwards actually tweaked his ankle and then they're like, he's out for the rest of the time. Brandon Ingram becomes the next like wing bucket getter that is getting a lot of the points that Brunson or Halliburton or them dumping to Jaren Jackson would be getting. And then Evan Fournier obviously can literally light up any game from three, from a 1.5 foot closer than the NBA 3-point line on average 3-point line, and score 40 points at almost any given time. So I did want to mention that. I wouldn't pay for those. I would probably only put money on Brunson, SGA, and Edwards, and then go from there. And then the other thing I wanted to mention was that when players actually do great in these games, specifically the exhibition games, I think it gets lost on a lot of, I hate using the word casual, but I mean, I don't even know how else to describe a person that thinks this at this point. A casual fan, they're basically playing a lot of guys that wouldn't make summer league teams. Like QJ Peterson, who was on the Knicks summer league team, got 50 points in multiple games last year playing in China's professional league, which is like the third best league in the world. And the whole team of China is projected to be like 27th, with Kyle Anderson being their all-star for out of 32 teams. It's just like, and Kyle Anderson isn't even a top 100 player in the NBA anymore. It just gets lost on like people that are like, oh my God, RJ scored 28 points. He went 13 to 14. The team couldn't stop him from going left. And if we know nothing else about RJ Barrett and his ability to drive, if he gets to his left hand and there's not a good shot blocker, he's going to finish more often than not. It's a lot of times the difficulty level from one team to another. It's like a D1 college to a D3 school, or it's like the high school varsity team versus like the best players on the freshman team. It's just, I think it gets lost on people and they just get way too excited when their favorite player does really well.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely it is pretty hard, and I just think like the RJ thing, like I'm very happy he played well. I'm happy that you know, again, I'd much rather he played well than play bad. Obviously, any of these guys.
100%. Yeah.
I just think like there was a lot of I saw a lot of just like, well, when RJ did it, it was a huge deal, and when Anthony Edwards did it, it was a huge deal, and it's like, man, like not everything needs to be a comparison, and if you don't understand why, like Anthony Edwards is right now has more clout, whatever you want to call it. He has more his Q rating is higher than RJ Barrett's is. So and honestly, like let's put the fucking cards on the table. Aside from Knicks fans, nobody in this country gives a fuck about Team Canada. Maybe OKC fans do, all 15 of them. Like nobody else cares. So like we don't need to be like, well, why isn't it a big deal? That's why. Because we're the only fan base that cares about Team Canada and OKC because they have SGA and Lou Dort. And like the you know, you think Timberwolves fans really care about what Mikal Alexander Walker is doing for Team Canada? No, they don't care. So like this is why. Whereas Team America, guess what? I've I tuned in for a few of the games. I'm sure you did. I'm sure plenty of fans did. So you inherently have more focus on those games. You have more stakes in those games. And also, like, Anthony Edwards might be the most popular player in the league right now. Like, he's the one guy. I was talking about this with somebody today where I was kind of like making a joke, but I'm like, I wonder when everybody's going to turn on Anthony Edwards. Because right now, he's just like,
I
everybody
think
loves
playing
Ant.
in Minnesota actually helps him, man. Because Minnesota is such like a cold, up and coming city all the time. It's like not a place you really hate; it's a place you avoid.
Yeah. And I just, that's what it is. So, like, I don't, like, I think Knicks fans, if they care, should definitely celebrate RJ's performances, Brunson's performances, whatever. It doesn't matter. I'm happy for those guys when they play well, for sure. But like, I just this whole like FIBA agenda pushing stuff. It's like, dude, it's international basketball. Go and look at some of the numbers other guys have put up. This shit at the end of the day, like when you come back to the NBA, it's the NBA again. And this is the highest league in the world. This is where the best players come to play. And this is like what they care about the most. You can tell me like, oh, it means a lot to these European guys and whatever. Like, that's fine. It can
If
mean
that was the
whatever.
case, man, Jokic would be playing right now.
Right. If this is not what matters to them the most. The NBA is what matters the most. That is where people's focus is, and it is where the best competition is. So like, take what you see for what it is, and enjoy it, whatever you want to do with it. But like, I just, like, I'll put it this way, like, I think it actually is a good sign, and not just that it's a good sign, but it's like, it means more to me if RJ Barrett went 3 of 5 from three in every single game in the tournament, but finished like, he shot like 20% from inside the arc. I would be happy. I'd be thrilled.
Same.
I'd be like, oh, I know, like, he's not going to shoot 20% from two for the rest of, like, when he comes back to the NBA, like, and if he played more FIBA games, that's eventually going to turn around. I'm encouraged to see him shoot a high clip from three, which with his new form that he's been working on, over an extended period of games. That would be a lot more encouraging to me than anything he does inside the arc. So, and in that sense, from what he has done, that is very encouraging.
Yeah. Agreed entirely. Between his 3-point shooting and his defensive intensity would be the two things I would look for the most out of RJ.
Yeah.
Just to say Canada's schedule real quick. They are in the group with France. So Canada and France are basically almost 50-50 odds of winning. Canada was minus 113 and France was minus 105 when I looked last. The other two teams they are playing are, I had it written down somewhere. Oh, Lebanon and Latvia. Latvia was going to be my upset pick up until Kristaps Porzingis is not playing because of plantar fasciitis, which as Knicks fans, I feel kind of bad, but also like it's at least 5 to 10% funny to me. Anyone listening to this, chances are this pod will be out either during or after Canada and France play because the game is at 9:30 in the morning. This is being released on Friday, so either you're hearing it or you're hearing this afterwards. So go RJ, Evan Fournier, whoever won. All right. Anyway, game 2 is Lebanon Sunday at 5:45. And the last game is against Latvia at 9:30. I really, especially with Kristaps out, I mean, Latvia can light up 30% from three for a couple of games and somehow pull an upset on one of the two. But it would be really shocking to not have Canada and France move out of this group specifically. And then you mentioned the Bill Simmons thing before. So that was one of the two quotes I was going to tell you for the thing where I was like, we were going to do either hyperbole taken out of context or something kind of truthful.
Mm-hmm.
The full quote, just for anyone who doesn't know, from the Bill Simmons podcast. He was on with David Jacoby and Kevin Wilder. I think it's Wilds. On Monday. Yeah. On Monday, Simmons goes, "So what's our best five? I know they're trying to establish Jalen Brunson, but what's our best five? And I have the receipts." Which does he? Is he really watching? Probably not. Halliburton has to be out there. Edwards, Bridges, Austin Reeves has to be out there, and Triple J, which not only is this Halliburton over Brunson, it is literally Austin Reeves over Brandon Ingram and Brunson, which is probably the more insane part. And at some point, they're going to realize that this is our best five. Again, Halliburton, Edwards, Bridges, Austin Reeves, and Jaren Jackson Jr. And it's likely at some point they're going to realize that's the five. And then in this German game specifically, that was the five. At the very end, he goes, he's trying to get contact. He is an Austin Reeves. He can hit open threes. Brunson is a veteran backup point guard on this team, which I also think it's crazy to call a 26 or 27-year-old that's literally entering his prime as a top 15 to 20 NBA player a veteran backup point guard in any scenario, because usually calling a guy a veteran means that he is playing on the bench and on the back nine of his career, and Jalen Brunson is the farthest thing from that. So what was your, I know you said it a little bit, but what was your overall take of what Simmons was saying, most specifically about Halliburton and Reeves closing over Brunson and or Brandon Ingram?
I mean, I think my main takeaway would be like, I would be fine if there was no like this guy or that guy have to close games. I think they're all like there is no true superstar on this team yet. In the sense of you can tell me Anthony Edwards is going to be a superstar, and I believe he will be. But he's not there yet, or he hasn't established himself one as yet. Jalen Brunson, really, really good. I think he's a star. I don't know if I want to call him a superstar yet. Maybe he can get there. Halliburton, same deal. Like, oh, we can go down the list. We don't need to. We know this. So if there's no sacred cows in as far as who closes, I'm okay with that. If there's one, it's Anthony Edwards, I'm okay with that. But like, I think the biggest misconception that anybody can have is that like this five has to be the five. Like that's just dumb. This is not a team like that. And I would hope, and actually I'm encouraged by what we've seen in these games that like Steve Kerr is not going to operate like that. I think he's open to being wrong and adjusting in game depending on what it requires. And I think that's really what this team needs. The team needs a coach who's going to be flexible with his lineups and not be like Tom Thibodeau, super devotion, like steadfast, no matter what, about his rotations. Like I think there's a lot of different components to this team. There's combinations that we probably haven't even seen that I think could be good. And like, let's be real. Like I like JJJ a lot. Like that guy can't rebound for a five at all. So if you want to run that lineup out there, that's cool. But like, just know you're probably gonna get pounded on the glass by certain teams. Like, so again, it's just not. I don't see a lineup at all, to be honest with you, that I'm like, oh yeah, this five is our best five, no matter who the other team is. Like that's not how I'm thinking about this Team America roster.
If and or when USA runs into Spain and France, I'm assuming we are going to see more Walker Kessler and or Bobby Portis in those instances. Specifically Kessler, obviously, but
yeah, I mean that's it's like people are like this, forgetting the point guard thing, which I think both Brunson and Halliburton have played a lot. I think what Kessler's kind of like not played much, and
he's kind of like their Jericho Sims.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know. I actually think he should play more. I like Walker Kessler. I think he's a good player, and I think to your point, like when they play France or one of these other teams that has real, not just size, but like good players that play inside, like they're gonna need a big body. I think, and he's not just a big body, right? Like we saw what he did in the NBA last year. That guy moves pretty well for his size. Good rebounder, awesome rim protector. I do take the point though, like we talked about, FIBA is different than the NBA. The rules are different. Maybe that's something where Kerr is worried that like he's not going to be able to adjust on the fly to a different kind of game than what the NBA is. And
I wonder if being able to take the ball off the rim in the NBA would have actually made the Rudy Gobert trade worthwhile. Because if Rudy Gobert was actually able to take the ball off the rim, or Mitchell Robinson for the Knicks, like they would be both like 3 to 5 points higher in 2K.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So I had one more thing for you. It was the other quote I wanted to say outside of the Bill Simmons one. I probably could have brought it up when we were talking about RJ, but this thing has been going around in the past 24 hours. I'm sure you saw it on Twitter. RJ gets asked, what have you done with your game to be so successful in FIBA games so far in the friendlies? He responds, the paint's wide open. I mean, we have really good players, so a lot of the attention is on other guys, and I try to just play off whatever the game is giving me. What does that mean to you? Like, what can you do for you to create? And he goes, I have a really great, really unique ability of getting into the paint, at all times. So when we have other good players on the court and we have spacing and shooting, it kind of forces teams to pick their poison on what they want to do. And the immediate reaction from Knicks Instagram and Knicks Twitter and Knicks Threads, if that's even a thing still at all, the immediate reaction was, we don't have spacing because Tibbs insists on playing Mitchell Robinson or a standard five at all times. He's calling out the team. I personally took it as he's just explaining that he's benefiting from playing with Kelly Olynyk in FIBA specifically, and that's not meant to be an attack on Tibbs or Mitch or Randall or anyone else on the team spacing wise. The also real ironic part, which you with people at the Strickland, not you specifically, but I know a couple of the guys you work with are very analytical. And they would say RJ is a lot of the spacing problem, more so than he gets this. He needs more of the spacing. Like you are a factory of your surroundings one way or another. So what did you take when you first heard the quote? And then how did you react when you were reading all of the hyperbole online?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even really tweet about it. I didn't tweet about it because I was like, okay, he said something with Team Canada. Like,
yeah,
this happens all the time where guys go away to their national teams, they answer something, and people are like, oh my God, what does it say about the Knicks? And it's like, dude, not everything is like about what they're doing in the NBA. Like, this is just him answering a fucking question. And, I thought his response, it's true. Like, he has better spacing there, and the paint is more wide open, and he's benefiting from that. That's all true. I guess we should trade Mitchell Robinson for Kelly Olynyk. Is that like what people want? Like, is that what we should do? Like, I don't really understand it because last time I checked, like I saw Mitchell Robinson dominate a first round playoff series and was a huge reason why we won it. And does he have his limitations as a player? Yeah, he does. He's obviously has zero range outside of like 3 feet. He can't shoot at all. He's not a great ball handler, passer, whatever. But he also does things really, really well. And he's a great offensive rebounder. He's a great vertical lob threat. He's a great defensive rim protector. He is a great defensive rebounder. I think today there was a stat that somebody posted. I want to say, I forget his at, but it's DJ. He changed it recently. It's like Ace Zulo.
Oh, Ace Zulo, yeah.
Yeah. He changed what his at is, but he does a lot of great work. He posted a stat today. Mitchell Robinson was number 1 in defensive rebound percentage, contested defensive rebound percentage, and contested offensive rebound percentage. The guy's a monster on the glass. If your takeaway is RJ Barrett would do better with a stretch 5 than Mitchell Robinson, I don't think you're saying anything that like I disagree with or anybody with a brain would disagree with. But the point of basketball and the point of the end of what you're trying to achieve is to win a championship, which is a team goal. And the way you do that is not necessarily doing what is best for one individual player. And for it to be worth it to cater to an individual player to that degree, they have to be a star, a superstar, and not just a star or superstar, but one capable, that you believe capable, of being the guy on a championship team. That is what you're talking about. And I'm not there with RJ Barrett. And like, I kind of look, I do think part of the spacing stuff is on him, but more importantly, it's like, is it ideal? No, it's not ideal. Is it awful? Like, I don't think his spacing is awful. I really don't. Like, he gets to play with Jalen Brunson. He gets to play with Quentin Grimes. He gets to play with Julius Randle. And say whatever you want about Julius Randle. Teams actually do keep an eye on him. He's quite like he has enough gravity that teams have to keep an eye on him. This is not like, would I like it if the offense was more free flowing and RJ got touches in different places and got more opportunities on the ball and all this type of stuff? Yeah, I've talked about that a lot. But like, it's not, to me, this is not a crisis. I don't think RJ was taking, and I want to be clear, like, I don't think what RJ said had anything to do with the Knicks. I don't think he was trying to, like,
I don't think so either.
Yeah, I think he was just answering a question. And he's probably trying to give props to his teammates with Canada and those guys he plays with. Like, I don't, this is really like making a mountain out of a molehill to me. And this is constantly what happens in August where it's like, oh my God, this guy said one thing. Look, he might be right. But also, like, again, how many centers are there in the league that are not just can space the floor at a high enough level, but are also really good defensively? Like Kristaps, who is also a major injury concern. There's Brook Lopez, who went back to Milwaukee, is 36 years old, and got paid $24 million a year, which is, I mean, he's making what, $48 million over the next 2 years. Mitchell Robinson is making 45 over the next 3. Like, I'm sorry, I'll go with the guy on the better contract, who's way younger also. So that's 2. There's Miles Turner, who I don't really think is on some different tier to Mitch, even if he can spread the floor more. There's Jaren Jackson Jr., who I don't even think is a center. Like, to me, he's a power
I was going to say
forward.
the same thing about Bam. Bam also plays center, and it's the same thing, but he's not really a 5.
Yeah, and Bam doesn't spread the floor, by the way. Like, he's not some 3-point.
He can make an 18-footer. He can't make a 3-pointer.
And nobody cares if Bam wants. If Bam was happy taking 18-footers against the Knicks, they would have let him do it the entire time. So like, that's 4 guys I named. That's Kristaps, Brook, Jaren Jackson Jr., who I don't even personally think is a center, and Miles Turner. That's 4 guys who can spread the floor and are really good defensively. AD does not hit threes. He shot like 26% ISOing from 3 this year.
Except for during COVID and there's no fans.
Right. And Embiid, like, I don't know, I don't really care what he puts up in the regular season. The guy in the playoffs, I think he shot something like 22% or something from 3 the last 2 years. He's not a good 3-point shooter. And every time he takes a 3 out there, the opponent's like, thank God our job is so much easier right now. So it's not easy to it's easy to be like, man, a stretch 5 would make RJ's job a lot easier and he'd really benefit from that. And I talked about that. I thought it was worth the Knicks exploring trading for Kristaps this offseason, even with the injury risk. I stand by that. I think it would have been something to explore. I don't think it's a crime they didn't. But like that, again, that's one guy. It's just there's not that many of these dudes out there. So to act like, oh, just get a stretch 5, come on, it's not that easy. I mean, Giannis can play center. Is he going to stretch the floor for you? No. Like it's hard. Even Jokic, like he shoots really well from 3. Do you really want to turn Jokic into a stretch 5 to accommodate like anybody? Like, no, you want everybody to accommodate Nikola Jokic. So this stuff is a lot harder than I think people. Again, easy to say get a stretch 5. A lot harder to say who is somebody that kind of would make us genuinely a better team overall. That's a lot harder to answer than just get a stretch 5.
I am so glad you mentioned Kristaps a couple of times. I want to ask you, does Boston actually know what they signed up for the injured unicorn experience and to get rid of the Marcus Smart to play Derek White, which to cite Bill Simmons or a couple other Boston fans again, they swear Derek White is better than Marcus Smart, which now might be true based on their age and where they're both at in their careers. But Marcus Smart was the heart and soul of that team. And to get rid of that dude for Kristaps, maybe I'll play 50 games, maybe I'll play 20 Porzingis, is probably not something I think they're truly ready for. So how upset is Boston fans going to be in the next, I would say, 3 to 5 months before April?
Oh man, I think they're going to be from what I've seen. The Boston fans, I mean, my dad's a Boston fan because when he moved here, he moved to Boston first. He hated that trade mostly because he just thinks they needed Smart on the team. The Derek White stuff, he's really, really good. I don't think he's actually better than Marcus Smart at being a point guard, and I don't think I trust him in the playoffs more than I do Marcus Smart, which is weird to say.
I like making cross-sport analogies a lot between basketball and football. I think of Derek White as Tony Pollard, where it's like he's great in small spurts, but I think by handing him the actual keys and getting 25 carries in the game or being able to handle the point for 80 to 100 possessions in the game, I think it's going to not go nearly as well as if he stayed in the 30 to 40 possessions running the point range, personally.
Yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to scale up in certain roles. That's the case with the NBA all the time. So, I would be. I'm actually like I think they're going to be really good in the regular season. I don't trust this team in the playoffs. I think they have the same issues that they've had forever, which is their end game offense is going to suck because they don't have a good enough ball handler, shot creator in those moments. I don't think adding a 5 as good as Kristaps is in terms of floor spacing really matters that much because I think they had the best floor spacing in the league last year anyway. And I don't know, like to me, they needed more dribble penetration, not more 3-point shooting. This feels like kind of overboard actually. And then you have all the injury stuff, like you mentioned with Kristaps, and it's not just Kristaps, it's Robert Williams and Malcolm Brogdon. That's like 3 of their top 7 guys have all significant injury histories, and Al Horford's 38. Like, I don't know. To me, this team feels like if they get the best injury luck possible for those guys, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. I think that's not a great bet. And specifically with Kristaps, I can see Boston fans getting very, very annoyed at him by like January.
I agree. I think it might be earlier. I think it might be by Thanksgiving. They might be actually really pissed off at this guy for not playing, but we'll see. Find out.
Yeah, it depends on maybe if that plantar fasciitis is like lingering into training camp for sure.
It's been 3 months, and now he was supposed to play for Latvia. Now he's not playing at all. So we're gonna really find out. Shwin, I know everyone that is on here probably knows where to find you already, but the last thing I ask before you go and have you plug all the Strickland stuff again even though you're gonna have to say it or alter it a million times over between now the regular season and the playoffs. What is your way too early expectations for the New York Knicks this season as of August 24th, 2023?
Think let's call it 4 seed. Let's say 51 wins. Let's say they win the first round series against
I'm assuming two of the three are Milwaukee,
Miami.
Boston in front of them. Is it Cleveland or Philadelphia you got as the three seed?
I have Cleveland in front of them. I think Cleveland is like a really good regular season team. I still like us in a playoff series against them, but I just feel like they are very well built to win a lot of regular season games.
Yeah.
I like they had like the best net rating in the regular season last year, so I kind of like them in the regular season. I could even see them make 2 seed or something, but yeah, I still like the Knicks. If they did match up with Cleveland, I would like the Knicks in that series. But I think that the Knicks finished fourth. I want to say like we'll see. Right now, the Miami thing is so weird where it's like, are they going to get Dame? Are they not going to get Dame? Let's say they don't get Dame. They finish as the 5 seed, and the Knicks play them. We get revenge, and then we lose in round 2 to Milwaukee. That's my prediction. I think Brunson makes an all-star team. I think he sneaks on the third team all NBA. I think Randall makes all-star, but not all NBA. And I think RJ shoots 36% from 3. There we go.
That would be great. That would be at league average, which would be 3% higher than he was last year, 4% higher than last year. So that'd be awesome.
Great. Yep.
I would love that. Who takes a bigger jump, Grimes or Quickly?
I'll say Quickly just because I don't think Grimes is going to get the touches to make a jump.
Okay, that's fair. And then what do you think is the most used closing lineup? I'm assuming Brunson, Randall, Mitch are out there. Who do you think closes the most out of that conglomerate at the 2 and the 3?
Brunson, Randall, Hart, and RJ. But I think that'll be because he tries to make that work for like the first 20, 23, 25 games before he becomes more adaptable with the closing lineup. And then I think it's kind of like an even split between RJ and Quickly and Grimes. The nice surprise would be if he's not like married to having Josh Hart close every game. That would actually make things a lot easier to manage. But we'll see. Usually takes him like 20 to 25 games before he starts messing around with whatever he decided in the offseason is what the plan is.
When was the Dallas game last year? December 9th? I feel like it's just around Pearl Harbor every year.
It's December 3rd. Yes. So
December 3rd,
very close.
So right around Pearl Harbor, we're gonna see what Tibbs actually thinks of before he gets his job threatened again.
Big World War II guy.
Oh yeah, he might be, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. Shwin, thank you so much for coming on, man. Plug all the Strickland stuff you got to plug, and then we'll get off the podcast air.
Yeah, I have you can follow me at Shwin on Twitter. Give us the follow at the Strickland. That is at the Strickland on Twitter. You can also subscribe to our podcast. I think if you search Strickland Podcast Network, it should show up there. There's all kinds of stuff on there. We have Pod Strickland. We have mailbags. We have we have a lot of stuff. So check it all out. I think we do rundowns after each game. So give that a follow. And then, if you haven't already, if you can give us a follow on YouTube or Instagram, all those things, that'd be a huge help to us. But other than that, I got nothing to plug. So I will plug the Q&A we did with Michael Caston, who, again, as we mentioned at the top, he's an IP lawyer. He's very well versed on the stuff. He's been on a bunch of national podcasts since then. So check that out. That was like 85 minutes that we did. It was really good. And
it was really good. Definitely listen.
And he was very informative. So if you're interested in it, give it a listen.
All right. And with that, another Big Knick Energy podcast off the air. Let's go Knicks. Peace.